Hello everyone, this is Lost Boy, and I hope today's treating you very well. The recent news regarding the re-release of the NES Classic in the summer of 2018 has got me thinking. There may be some lessons to learn here. I have loved playing video games since I was a little kid, and we sure didn't have tons of money then, and games ain't cheap. Never have been. Not the good ones anyway. Currently, I live in the largest and probably most expensive city in Canada, and I do it on a fairly modest income. I do this by choice because I don't want to kill myself working to pay for stuff that is way overpriced, in addition to, in many cases, not actually being a necessity. All of this is just to say I really don't have a very sizable gaming budget. This would usually indicate a choice between either spending money I really don't have or cutting way back on titles and or consoles that I'd like to have. Looking back now, I'm actually pretty ashamed to admit how much I overspent on games back when I was in super grind mode and making a larger income. What I realized over some time is that there is a third alternative, although a lot of you may not like it too much. It's really complicated, so you just have to try to follow me here, okay? Ready? Here it is. Just pay less for your games. That's it. That's all. Just pay less for them. Now, I know all you are howling at your screens right now. Half of you already clicked off the video. That's cool, though, because it means even more deals for the rest of the people left watching. Don't worry, I won't leave you hanging like that. There's just a little more to saving money on games than that, so here it is. The single biggest factor in why you're overpaying for your video games is time. When that new Destiny or Doom title drops, I know how tempting it is to just possess that shit like yesterday. These games are guaranteed to retail for at least $60 to $70 or more, plus sales tax, usually adding another $10 on top depending on your region. I absolutely know the feeling of keenly anticipating a game release with a nearly religious fervor. Life just won't feel complete again until you have it for your very own and discover its many secrets. Please believe me, I do understand the pull being exerted on you here, but try to resist. Just try is all I'm saying. We get into a habit or a default mode of giving in to ourselves when we really want something, and I'm not saying never to do this, but it really should be the exception and not the rule. I know the thought of waiting for that new game just kills you, but if you're like me, you've built a fairly respectable gaming library already, right? And have you really played all of those games so much that you have no interest in diving back in? So, tactic number 1, wait to buy games. Especially now, it is really surprising how quickly many of these AAA games price drop, or at the very least go on sale, and very quickly you're saving 25%, 40%, sometimes even 50% or more. The thought of waiting up to a year or more to pick up a game after release may give you the cold sweats, but you'll be surprised how fast that year goes by, and you'll really notice those savings. And don't forget, this advice works for consoles as well as games. I really can't recommend buying pre-owned products from stores like EB or GameStop because you usually only save $5 to $10 compared to buying new, and that is on an item they probably only gave $15 or $20 in store credit to some poor sap. This is an anti-consumer business model and should be discouraged. That leads to the next tip. Don't trade in your games to stores like EB or GameStop. This, in business terms, is an absolutely terrible decision. If you have money to burn, then by all means. Otherwise, you really may want to give this one some more thought. Craigslist, Kijiji, eBay, video game trading groups on Facebook. There are many ways of avoiding the fleecing you'll receive trading your games in, and there are new options all the time. This may not appeal to you as it will require some additional effort on your part, especially at first while getting your bearings if you're new to it. Some people just want the convenience of trading games in. But for my books, this is to be avoided at all costs. Next tip. Watch out for amiibos, Skylanders, and microtransactions. 3 or 4 Christmases ago, my nephew had asked for Skylander Swap Force for Xbox 360. The game came with 3 little toy characters from the game and a little NFC pod to read the toys. An old geezer like me had no idea what this game was about, so I wasn't super knowledgeable to provide assistance when the little guy came asking for some help to play his new game. I took a look for him, and very quickly, I saw how all this works. He was locked behind a gate in the game, which would only open if you had the right toy, and it wasn't one of the toys that was included in his starter pack. So, you sell a kid a game, but the game is essentially useless unless you have the toys. They include 3 toys to get you started, i.e. hooked, and then you soon find that the rest of the game is completely locked off from you unless you continue buying more toys. It honestly broke my heart to see that he's basically being turned into a junkie for those Skylanders. When it came time to spend his Christmas money, it all went to more Skylanders. Forget about any other games or Pokemon cards. All your money is gone on those toys. Now, it may not be a one-to-one comparison, but the Skylander business model is actually not that dissimilar from the microtransaction business model we are seeing growing up now, like Jack's frickin' Beanstalk. For me, the key issue here is fairness, a slippery concept to be sure. When I buy a game, my satisfaction is based on many things, but most people could agree that the value of a game is decided by how much a player can get out of the game for their $60 or $70, or less if you follow my advice. I remember having Morrowind and Dead or Alive 3 on the original Xbox, and there are two great examples of great value in a game. After roaming for tens or hundreds of hours in Morrowind's huge and engrossing world, how could one be bitter? Nay, how could one not be completely stoked when Bethesda offered some additional content for Morrowind at an additional cost? Now compare that to a game like the first Destiny, a game widely criticized for seeming pretty empty upon release, and with DLC seeming like it really ought to have been included in the base game. This leads to more and worse things like Day 1 DLC, or even writing assets and content to your game DVD that cannot be accessed without you paying extra money. This is a very bad direction for gaming consumers, and from the perspective of the companies, us consumers cannot get enough of their abuse. To be clear, I am in no way against DLC if the DLC is substantial and if the game is full, well-rounded, and not lacking to begin with. I'd like you now to consider the cost of a AAA game, say $70. Now add to that the price of a console, about $400. Now add to that multiplayer network fees like Xbox Live and PSN, around $60 per year. Plus internet, maybe another $60 per month for decent gaming internet. All of that adds to nearly $600 before you're playing a single game. Then, likely add sales tax across all of that, and finally, you are playing a single game online. What I'm suggesting is that after laying out all of that cheddar, we really ought to get something more substantial and not be asked to dig for our wallet again every 5 minutes. Costs are necessary, but what we are seeing now just goes too far. Now, there's really no way to put this nicely, but if we are looking for someone to blame for all of this, we can really just look in the mirror. We, myself included, have been a little too eager to dive deep for that wallet in the past, and now the sharks have scented blood in the water. It may not seem like it, but your individual spending habits do genuinely affect the marketplace, as do mine. I'm just trying harder to make these companies work for me and not the other way around, you see? I'm not asking you to be perfect. A little effort goes a long way, and just like exercise, it only gets easier with time. Now here we are in the midst of another collectible Nintendo release, the SNES Classic. Full disclosure, I have the NES Classic as well as the SNES Classic. I pre-ordered them as much as it pains me to admit it, but remember, I said you don't need to be perfect. This is the type of item we apparently just needed to have, but because of supply issues, many people who planned to buy one were out of luck. Heck, I only got one by using a page monitor and sitting next to my computer for hours. So, I paid $79.99 Canadian dollars plus tax for my NES Classic. But to my dismay, I saw that little hunk of plastic and silicone selling for up to $400 online. Can you just imagine if you were one of those people who paid $300 to $400 for an NES Classic earlier this year, only to find out that Nintendo has decided to re-release that console again next year? Surely at this point, we must start to see the real absurdity of this situation. The minute pre-orders went up for the new SNES Classic, resellers appeared on Amazon and eBay asking, you guessed it, $300 to $400 for a guaranteed pre-order. I suppose there are even people out there who don't regret getting ripped off just because they got what they wanted right when they wanted it. But that just seems crazy to me. You might say a fool and their money will soon be parted and leave it at that, but it's a bit more complicated. You see, every time a person overpays, it just encourages that scalper, that greedy CEO, and so on, to just keep treating you like a money faucet and push it even farther next time. Your dollar is your vote, so make it count. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and always remember to hang on to your happy thought. See you next time.